So today we're going to be talking about 5 ways to improve Bitcoin. And it's not going to be anything technical again, but it is going to be things that I think we can implement and try to push change in our own way. So some of them are a little bit far-fetched, some of them I think are actually doable, and some of them are just worth talking about. So we're going to go through 4 of them here, and I'm actually going to leave it to the live chat here to come up with number 5. I see some chats in the live chat already. But this is going to be a clip. So if you're watching this clip, all these clips come from the show that we do every morning, Daily Bitcoin Journey, 9 a.m. Eastern time on this channel here. So the audience is actually going to help choose number 5 today, ways we can improve Bitcoin. I see a couple good ones in there already. So let's kick it off with number 1. I think one way we could improve Bitcoin would be to change the way we sell Bitcoin. I saw a chart yesterday, a really good graphic, and this is something we've been talking about quite a bit on the show lately, but the ownership of Bitcoin. Right now, 70% of Bitcoin is held by individuals, us. About 15% of it, and growing, is owned by the public companies, the governments, the hedge funds, the BlackRocks of the world. They own about 15% of the Bitcoin right now. We hold 70. And so I think the one thing we need to improve within Bitcoin is when we go to sell it. I know Bitcoiners say never sell your Bitcoin, and that's a really good mentality to have. But the reality is that if you are living on Bitcoin and the majority of your assets are held within Bitcoin, at some point you're going to have to sell some of those sats to pay for whatever you need, because life's pretty unexpected. And you might need new tires, you might need a new water heater, you might need a new roof. And at some point, if you're all in on Bitcoin, you're going to have to part with some of those sats. So I think we need to put a big emphasis on how we sell those sats, because right now, for the most part, I would imagine that people, when they want to sell Bitcoin, they go onto their exchange that they usually use, they send it to the exchange, and then they convert it to dollars. But the problem with that is that's 70% that individuals hold right now versus 15 that the big boys have. All those sats that get sold on those exchanges are essentially going to flow into the BlackRock vacuum. That's going to shift from 70 and 15 to like 65, 20, and then 60, 25. And the more sats we keep selling on these exchanges, they're all just going to go to the big boys here. So what I would propose is sell to other Bitcoiners. Join at least one Bitcoin network where you can interact with people, you can find people that you trust. And when you do need to sell, you just say, hey, I got 500,000 sats to sell. Does anybody want to buy them? That way it's staying between the individuals. It's not going back to the exchanges. And just like when I send sats to my cold card, I know it's going to be there for a very long time. That's kind of my way of knowing that those sats are going to be locked up for a long time. And I think that we need to change our perspective in terms of whenever we get Bitcoin off an exchange, it should never go back onto the exchange for privacy reasons, for other tax reasons, but also just so that we can maintain our ownership here. Because the more average people, the more decentralized this is, and the less Bitcoin that the big boys have, the better this is going to be. So I think that that's one important thing that people should be paying more attention to, is when you need to sell your Bitcoin, when you need to sell some sats, find another Bitcoiner, find a family member, find somebody who's willing to buy that Bitcoin. You don't have to look very hard. You just got to put in a little bit of work, proof of work. But this is important. It's gonna be. It might not seem like a day-to-day, but over time, if we just keep selling our Bitcoin back to these exchanges, and it ends up with BlackRock and the U.S. government and Michael Saylor, that's going to be a problem for us. So we need to start taking this seriously today and into the future. This has to be a big part of the way we think about this. Is don't sell to the exchanges. Sell it to another Bitcoiner. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I really think that Bitcoin needs to have more education. We need to be way better with education than we are right now. And I know there's people working on it. There's people trying to figure out the best way to be educating people on Bitcoin. It's tough. I get it. There's no experts in Bitcoin. This thing's only 16 years old. But we do need to be thinking more about this, because this shouldn't be such a hard thing for people. People are very turned off by Bitcoin because they think it's complicated. And they think they need to understand that before they convert any dollars into Bitcoin, but that's not the case. Does anybody know how their cell phone works in the background? Does anybody know how their bank, their Visa card works in the background? No, but they still use it. So we just need to push education. And I really think that this starts at a lower level. And it's not that we have to put Bitcoin in schools. We don't need to have Bitcoin courses. It would be helpful. But I think we just need to start at the core, the root of the problem here, and teach people about money. Teach people about money and teach people about real history in our public school systems. And I know that's a big ask. It might not happen, especially here in Canada, for a while. But that has to be something that kids learn earlier. And I'm fairly certain that by the time my kids go through school, everything will have changed. It seems like we're kind of heading in that direction right now, that trending that way, with the whole education departments being kind of uprooted and questioned and shone spotlight on. So it could happen. But I really think that we have to focus as much as we can on education aspect of Bitcoin. And these number 2 and 3 kind of tie together. And I do actually have a couple proposals with that. So number 3 is Bitcoin needs much better marketing than it has. Much better marketing. And maybe this ties into education a little bit. And the thing with Bitcoin is that there's no CEO, right? There's no company that you can call. There's nobody who can plan, let's put out these educational courses. Let's market it this way to this segment of people. There's nobody that does that because everybody's kind of on their own. And so what I propose here is something with education, something with marketing, is that maybe we just find some people and put together some sort of organization. I don't know what that is, but it's definitely possible if we start thinking about it in that terms, both marketing and education. And let's say that if we just play this out, if we think like, if we assembled like 50 of the best Bitcoin mines around the world and we funded them maybe through sats, maybe we self-fund them, who knows? But there's a way that we can do this. And then we put together this course and this marketing thing, maybe an education sector, maybe a marketing sector. And they go to work, they get it done, and they push this thing forward. But the nice thing about that is you don't really need to have a company here. You don't need to have like a CEO. You don't need any of that. Even if there's centralized departments within Bitcoin, like education, like marketing, it's not going to change the actual distribution of Bitcoin, right? The education fund here isn't going to get like 20% of the Bitcoin as a budget here, and they're going to have influence and control over the network. That's not how this works. So we already have the foundation, the Bitcoin network, that is fully decentralized and spread out across this world. But if we just allocate some resources to education, to marketing, and maybe a couple other things, and we hire teams to do this, it's going to happen eventually, and people are kind of organically being exposed to Bitcoin and learning about Bitcoin. But I think that this would just be the jet fuel that we need. And we might be running out of time, truthfully, because when the US government shows up and announces that they're buying Bitcoin, it's pretty much over for the average person, which is unfortunate, but it is the reality of things. So that's number 2 and 3 is more education, better marketing. And this one kind of ties into this. Number 4 kind of ties into this as well. But I think that if Bitcoin had a different name, it would be much more popular. And this is my theory. This is my theory on Bitcoin. That if you took the characteristics of the dollar, the supply cap, the issuance schedule, the control, the everything. If you had a list of characteristics to do with the dollar that we use every day, and then you had another sheet that had the characteristics of Bitcoin, and you could compare them back and forth. One has an unlimited supply of trillions. One has a fixed supply of 21 million. And you went line by line. And it didn't say dollars. It didn't say Bitcoin on it. It just was 2 sheets, characteristics of a good asset. And you asked people, you had 1,000 people in there. And you said, which currency would you rather use? Which currency do you think would be better for the world? 1 or 2? Not dollars or Bitcoin, but 1 or 2. I guarantee you, out of those 1,000 people, there's probably 1% of bozos out there who just don't have a clue about anything. But I would say 99% of people would choose Bitcoin without not even knowing what it is. That would be the key there, is that they didn't have the name Bitcoin on it. So I know it's hard because on one side of things here, you have a name a brand, a logo that the entire world recognizes. So that's like a very positive thing for Bitcoin itself. On the negative, though, that also carries all this baggage from the last 16 years of negative marketing around it, which is hard to overcome, as we've seen. It's very difficult for people to twist their mind and understand that maybe everything I've heard about Bitcoin isn't necessarily truth. So if we change the name of Bitcoin, we would have a fresh start. People might look at this thing more objectively. It wouldn't carry all the environmental concerns, the used by criminals concerns, the Ponzi scheme stuff. So that's kind of the hard part for me, is like, which one's more important, it being globally recognized or carrying all this baggage around? So number 4 would be potentially a different name. And this might play out organically too, because I think that over the next 5 years here, there's not a whole lot of people who are going to be knowing what the price of Bitcoin is. Because when we get to a price of $1 million per Bitcoin, which I don't think is very far away, at that point, it's going to be 1 sat, which in every 1 Bitcoin, there's 100 million sats. So 1 sat equals 1 cent. At that point, I think we're going to start measuring the price in sats instead of Bitcoin. So this might happen organically. We might kind of shed our skin, our baggage behind organically, which is probably better instead of forcing it on people. But that would improve Bitcoin. Would be a different name that people have no ill feelings towards, and they don't have 16 years of negative press around Bitcoin. So that's number 4. And like we mentioned here, we're going to go to the chat here for number 5. So we'll see. We got a couple in the chat. I got a couple from NOSTR, and maybe we'll spend the next 5 minutes here picking the right one. So that's my 4. Change the way we sell Bitcoin, number 1. Number 2, increase our Bitcoin education resources. Number 3 would be do some better marketing within Bitcoin. Help explain it to people. 2 and 3 kind of tie together there, but that's okay. And number 4 is maybe we change the name of Bitcoin. Again, not likely to happen, but it would improve Bitcoin because it would shed all the negative stuff around Bitcoin that we've been programmed to believe for the last 16 years by the people who don't want us to be using Bitcoin, i.e. the government, i.e. the media. So let's spend the next 5 minutes here going through some comments in terms of what else we can improve. And if we can't find one, we'll defer to NOSTR because I got some good comments in there. Time lock wallet. I think that these already exist. I think that this is something you have to remember, that Bitcoin is programmable money, which is kind of cool. It's programmable money. But the thing about that is you actually have to, well, I guess you could use it for your own applications, but you have to come to a consensus within the network. So if we do want to change something, we could. It's not up to one person or one group of people. It's up to the majority of Bitcoiners, the consensus. I love this one. This would be a great idea if there's a way that Bitcoin UTXOs could automatically consolidate. And I do believe probably within the next couple of years, we will see something like that. I do, because again, it's programmable money. You have the ability to do things like this. I already got that one. No wonder you and Rajat work so well together. What about Forrest? I don't know. That's a good question. Forrest is just a good dude. We kind of got all 3 bases covered with Maple Bitcoin. We got the West Coast, Forrest. We got Central, me, and we got East, kind of East, Rajat. So we got all parts of Canada, all different perspectives and expertise. But yeah, that's kind of why me and Rajat started chatting, actually, because we're both come from finance. Timber Crasher says Bitcoin needs more sovereign individuals running their own nodes and their own hash. That is a good point. I just don't know how you would enforce that, though. I don't know how you would enforce that. Terry says your QR code, is that a received Bitcoin address? Yes, it is. You can use the Lightning wallet if you want to send, if you've been learning anything, you're getting any value, you can send some sats. And we just got a zap, actually. 188 sats from Jackson and Spaceman. So Jackson is the dog there, I believe, and Spaceman is the humans. Thank you. But yes, you can use, goes to Arnie's wallet. That's right, Ahsoka. Arnie's QR code on the screen goes to a Lightning wallet. That's right. Bitcoin Ben says states are buying in 2 weeks. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. Okay, what do we got here? Cleaning Machine says, Youth Bitcoin Network, 2 of my 6 grandchildren want to know how it all works. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. And maybe that goes back to the education aspect of this. Not really Bitcoin education, but the education system itself. If people understood money better, they would feel much differently about Bitcoin. And even for myself, we were just talking about my financial background. I was a CPA for almost 10 years. And so I went through college, university, the CPA program. I minored in economics. My dad worked in a bank for 40 years. And when I realized how little I knew about money after getting into Bitcoin, that's when everything changed for me. Because somebody who went through all that financial, time in finance still doesn't know what money is. That's a huge, huge problem for the world. And it's by design too, because they don't want you to know that they can print money. But yes, that's a great idea. There it is. Thank you, Buck52. That's the list there that we got. We're looking for number 5 here. We got a couple good ones. Okay, sorry, Johnny. I can't get to that right now. We're in the middle of something here. What do we got here? Every Bitcoiner's house should have 33% owned hash, 33% owned node, and 33% owned all Bitcoin in cold storage. That way we decentralize all aspects. That's cool. That's a good roadmap there. I like that. Buck52 says, get mainstream media, quit bashing Bitcoin and creating fear. Yeah, that's kind of what number 4 was kind of based around, is that the media has just bashed it as much as they can do. And it just hangs around in people's minds, because when they've actually spent 0 time learning Bitcoin for themselves, all they have to rely on, their opinions are all based on what they've heard from other people. And the majority of people that they hear are from their phones or on their TV. So that's why there's such a negative connotation around Bitcoin. All right. Eric says, payment processors could offer incentives to small businesses to accept Bitcoin as a payment method. Payment processors could offer incentives. Yeah, except the problem with that is, Eric, is that payment processors don't like Bitcoin, because when businesses are accepting Bitcoin over Lightning, their 3% fee disappears. Right now, the payment processors make every company on earth that makes money, they don't even have to make a profit, but if they make money selling things, the payment processors get 3% of every single transaction that happens on earth. Do you think that they're going to want to incentivize Bitcoin, which they don't make any money off of? Thing is there probably will be some companies. Like, I think that Visa's actually been investing in the Lightning Network for a lot of years now. So they might actually implement Lightning into their systems, which would basically just make it easier for the business to accept Bitcoin. And they might take a fee of Bitcoin for that, kind of during this transition phase. I think that might be the Visa's kind of last chance to, hang on to some of that. So Jen says, as a boomer, what is the first book you'd recommend I'd share with my family? Good question. I don't really have a good answer to that, because I don't think that anybody who doesn't know anything about Bitcoin would be interested in reading a book about Bitcoin. I think it has to happen in a different way. But Jay says Bitcoin is Venice. I've heard that one's good too. Yes, Ginger. This is number 5. I don't care what else is said after this. This is number 5. We're calling it right here, because I agree with this, and I didn't think about this. That's why I wanted to rely on the chat for this. So thank you. It says no paper Bitcoin, and we know exactly what exchanges, companies, countries, etc. actually own. Yes, that is the winner. That's number 5. Stamp it in there. So I got something else cool to share with you guys here. So that is, we're going to leave it there. Sorry, I know there's some other ones here, but that's the winner. So here's what I want to say, because I got to go here in a couple minutes. But this is what I'm going to tell you. So we got Bitcoin education. That was number 2. And I want to share a couple things here. So number 1, if you are somebody who's just new into Bitcoin, you want to, round out your knowledge. You want to learn about security, key management, UTXOs, all this stuff. Consider joining the Patreon. It's 365 days of Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin video every day for a whole year. We're on day 42 today. All videos are about 10, 50 minutes long. Plus, you're going to get a nice certificate at the end of it. And who knows what that will be worth one day. Not financially, but like overall, what it'll be worth. Who knows? Might be worth nothing, might be worth a lot. Number 2 is we got our new channel, Maple Bitcoin. I want to bring this up here quickly for everybody to see, because there's going to be a lot of focus on Bitcoin only education from these 3 guys here. So this is another really good way if you're interested in learning about Bitcoin without having to pay a fee for it. I mean, it's a little bit different. This is a lot more in depth and, timeline, because you have to keep in mind here that, within Bitcoin, there's a lot of information. You can pretty much find whatever you need to online for free. That's the world that we live in now. But with something like 365 days of Bitcoin, it's a journey, it's a process, it's where to start. That's what you need to know. You need to know 2 things: who you can trust and where to start. You have all the information you need out there. But that's why the 365 days of Bitcoin is good, because it's in order of things you need to know. So Maple Bitcoin is for a little bit more well-rounded, I would say, overview. But looks like we had quite a few people subscribe over this show today, which is kind of cool. So Maple Bitcoin, check them out, or check us out. I don't know if I already put this in the chat or not. Did I? Yeah, I did. So that's there. That's number 2. And then finally, something I want to share for people here. Just, I don't know, I like doing this stuff. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm actually coming up with 8 things for Bitcoiners. Basically like the 10 commandments of the Bible, thou shalt not, etc. But it's going to be the same for the Bitcoin version of it. So I'm going to call it 8 Satoshis. It's a venture that's coming in the future, but it's going to be called 8 Satoshis. And I have 8 things on a piece of paper, a nice document, easy to read, easy to follow, that you can just kind of keep and you can refer back to, or you can share with friends or family or whoever. Anybody you orange pill or get into Bitcoin, you can send them this. So I was going to upload it onto a website and share the link on there, but I want to do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 88 of these. I'm not going to sell them. I'm not going to launch a coin or anything like that. They're going to be free. So just before everybody gets their panties in a knot here, it's okay. It's going to be free. So what you're going to do, you're going to send an email here. You're going to put the title is going to be 8 Satoshis in caps. So I know. I'll send you a copy of it, and I'm actually going to go through. This is going to take me some time, but I want to do this. I'm going to put a serial number on each. So it's going to be number 1 of 88, number 2 of 88, number 3 of 88. It's going to be kind of like a collector's item that might not be worth anything. It might be worth a little bit in the future. Either way, I want to kind of reward the people who are here watching the show today and who have, been following the channel so far. It's going to be a very good guide for people to just kind of bookmark, keep fresh in their mind. It's going to help you secure your Bitcoin for generations to come. So this is going to be the inaugural launch of 8 Satoshis today. And again, I'm going to serial mark these in order of emails received. So if Ahsoka sends one at 9:36, and then Buck52 sends one at 9:37, Ahsoka is going to be number 1 of 88. Buck52 is going to be 2 of 88. So again, this probably isn't going to be like a resale thing. People are going to be able to replicate this, but I still think it's kind of cool. So once we get past the 88, then I'm just going to kind of post it for everybody to have. But I wanted to give a little bit of an incentive here for people to shoot me an email, get the PDF or the copy of this in a kind of customized way and a collectible way. I'm a collector myself, so I like doing stuff like this. So that's my proposal to you. So again, just to round this out, we had change the way we sell Bitcoin, sell it to each other, improve our Bitcoin education and start at a very grassroots level with the kids in schools, teaching them about money, which will eventually evolve into Bitcoin. Number 3 is we needed a better marketing team. Maybe we start hiring Bitcoiners to start marketing this thing a little bit better. Number 4 was maybe change the name Bitcoin so it doesn't carry the same negative bullshit that we've been carrying around for the last 16 years. Unlikely, but it would improve things. And number 5, from our friend Ginger in the chat here. No paper Bitcoin. We know exactly what exchanges, companies, countries actually own. Proof of reserves. when we have proof, when we standardize and normalize proof of reserves for countries, companies, and funds, BlackRock's, that's when everything changes. That's when people realize the true scarcity of Bitcoin. And until we have that, we're just going to have exactly what we've had for the last 100 years, just paper bullshit floating around in the wind. So Bitcoin is truly scarce. That is its number one characteristic in my mind. And we have to verify that to people and show just how scarce this asset is. Because when people know how scarce this asset is, that's when the value really shoots up. Cleaner Machine. Hey, Sergio. Morning, buddy. Good morning. Cleaner Machine said, Maple Bitcoin, very professional show and ocean of information. Yeah, that's kind of, it is going to be a little different than this channel. I swear a lot on here. I talk about some conspiracy stuff. A little bit unhinged some days. People like it. A lot of people don't like it. But with Maple Bitcoin, it's going to be something that you can send to your friends and family, your mom, your son, and you're going to feel confident knowing that we're not going to say anything stupid on there or swear or anything like that. So it is going to be very professional and very focused on spreading Bitcoin adoption and really prioritizing Bitcoin only, which is important. When people, for the first time getting into Bitcoin, they type it in. What is Bitcoin? Where can I find information about Bitcoin? And instead of them, a big altcoiner with a nice fancy graphic and a surprised face, baiting them in to click their bullshit, we need good Bitcoin only resources here. And I think that Maple Bitcoin is going to be that for a lot of people. So that is, you can just actually search at Maple Bitcoin in YouTube. It's also in the show notes here at the very top, and you can find it that way. So that's it. I'm late. I got to go, but I hope you enjoyed that today. So thank you once again, everybody, for the zaps. Very generous today. Yesterday was a tough show for the zaps. My salary was very low yesterday. But